O-Soto-Gari. It's a variation that almost all O-Soto-Gari throwers use. Most of them in combination with the classic O-Soto-Gari. Most of them use both. Ono, for example, used this to defeat or to throw Nakaya a few years ago. First, what's a classical O-Soto-Gari, so that we have the difference. Classic O-Soto-Gari for me is always when people practice something like this. The big step forward, next or even behind him, pull him on the leg, and then really get momentum into your leg, and in one movement you throw. That's a very strong technique, and it's being used a lot. The advantage is it's a very, very powerful throw, but the disadvantage is it's also very risky, because if it doesn't work, and maybe I didn't really manage to pull him all the way over and he's still too stable, and I go in here, now I'm in a very unstable position, and he's going to counter me. Same thing happens if he's very fast and manages to slip out his leg. If I go here, it's very easy for him to just turn me over. And the next problem is the throw either works or I get countered, and that makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to really do combinations with this O-Soto-Gari. And that is where the variation Ono often uses comes in. The main difference is in the first step, I don't go all the way forward next to him or even behind him. Instead, I do a far smaller step, or depending on my starting position, I don't do any step at all. So, go into a position that is still somewhat in front of him, and I have some distance. And now, I still do pull him on his front leg, but I don't do a huge motion. Instead, I want to go into the back of his knee as quickly as possible and pull that forward. This is still a relatively safe position, and that's good, because if I feel that he's stable or too stable for me to attack, I can still go out and just not commit to the technique. If I do feel him to be unstable and everything is good, now I can do multiple things to finish the throw. First variation, I push down this foot, I get in close to him, so I try to get contact with my hip and with my shoulder, and now my second leg takes a step forward. Now I'm in a very good position to throw the O-Soto-Gari. Another option, one that particularly Ono really likes, is same opening, go into the back of the knee, and now he doesn't go down with his leg, instead he starts to jump forward until he's in a position where he can pull the leg through. Several ways you can do this. You can really trail your arm back and put pressure on the shoulder, or you can do it a little bit more classic and try to get shoulder-shoulder contact. Both of those work. A third option is to bring in your hip more. So after this, I do bring down my foot. I do the step forward, but now instead of trying to go up with your leg, bring in your hip, and becomes kind of a hip throw, where the leg is just a little added bonus to keep him rotating. And yeah, that's Ono's O-Soto-Gari. Have fun.
Okay, so this is the first example by Ono in white against Nakaya in blue. And in this example, you can see the positioning of the feet, the entrance, and how you can stop the attack and get out of it relatively safely. So, the first step with a classical O-Soto-Gari, I would assume when this is the foot line of Nakaya, that Ono would use this foot and just take a step forward. But with this variation, you don't want to be on or behind your opponent's line. Instead, you want to be maybe in front of this foot or even back here. This time, Ono is going to go back here, so this first step actually goes backwards. And it's more of a jump. So he jumped back here. Now, his attacking leg goes over Nakaya's leg. Here's Nakaya's knee, so he reaps in above the knee and puts his foot into the back of the knee of his opponent. He is staying quite far away. I mean, you can see the audience through there. The shoulders are quite far apart. He's even leaning away from Nakaya. Now the leg is getting pushed down. And while there's still quite a gap here, Ono is going closer with the shoulder. But as Ono is pushing down this foot, Nakaya is taking a step back and is trying to evade and possibly counter the throw. So here we have Ono's foot touching the ground. His hip is starting to come forward. He has more and more contact up here in the shoulder. And here he felt that Nakaya was going into the wrong direction and decided to stop the throw. And he gets out quite safely because his hip is not in contact yet. He can easily get distance between the shoulders again, and he's standing quite far away with his with his support leg. And you can see Nakaya trying. He just a very, very small attempt of an O-Soto of his own, but it comes so late, or Ono is out of it so quickly that it doesn't do anything. So there was Nakaya's little attempt of a counter throw. So once again, you see the entrance. He takes this step back here. Goes in, notices the counterattack, and easily gets out again because he wasn't fully committed yet. The next example is a successful throw from Ono in white against Senjagal in blue. And again, they're standing right against right. And Ono is standing pretty far to the left of his opponent. Again, with a classical O-Soto, I would expect this foot to go forward mainly, a little bit closer to him, but mainly forward, behind this line, and then go in for the attack. That's not what happens. Ono takes this foot and takes it back. Here. The attack starts by putting his support leg into position, pretty much in front of, slightly to the outside of Senjagal's right foot, or the leg he's going to attack. Now, at the same time, Ono's attacking leg goes forward, but mainly the attacking leg. He's not in contact here. In fact, he's using his head to keep a little bit of space between them. It's only now that he takes the head out. And again, Senjagal's knee is about here, so he hooks into the leg above the knee, or he starts a little bit above the knee and then slides into the back of the knee. In this case, he's not hooking with his heel first, but he's going in basically back of his knee against back of Senjagal's knee. That also works. And now he's starting to put this foot down. What you can really see very well here is there's a big gap here. With a classical O-Soto-Gari, you would want to be far closer to your opponent. But with this one, you want to stay away at the beginning of the throw to stay safer. So yeah, big gap. Up here you can kind of see it. There's also space between Sanjagal's shoulder and Ono's shoulder. Now he's starting to commit to the attack. The foot goes down to the ground, and he starts pushing the hip forward. He starts pushing the shoulder forward. There's still a gap, but it's getting smaller. There's still a gap here, but it's also getting a little bit smaller. Now the foot is on the ground. He's really committing the attack. His arms are working. He's starting to push him forward here. And now he's not really taking a step. He's more sliding the foot forward into the position where you would expect it to be for a classic O-Soto-Gari. So you can see Sanjagal's foot line is about here. And there's the slide. And now he's pretty much roughly on that line where you would expect a classic O-Soto-Gari to go. And as soon as he has the foot planted down here, you can see, well, there's still a little bit of a gap here, but it's tiny compared to the beginning of the attack. And once he's in this position, he just throws the O-Soto-Gari. In that position, more or less like a classic O-Soto-Gari. Now we have the same thing from a different angle. And again, he starts quite far away. First step is this step inwards so that he gets in front of Sanjagal's foot. Here you can see the hooking. Sanjagal's knee is about here, so he's above the knee. And there's space here between the shoulders and a lot of space between the hips. You can see, in fact, you can see the audience through there. Now the foot goes down to the ground. He pushes the hips forward, and the gaps get smaller. This one is still big, but it's smaller than before. Shoulders come closer together. Now that foot is more or less firmly on the ground, and he starts to slide this foot forward. Now there's a lot of contact here. Not that much contact up here because he's using a non-traditional grip. He's not on the sleeve, but he has a double lapel grip, and that creates a little bit more space. But this foot is now all the way forward, and he can throw the O-Soto. And bam. So once more, you can see he takes the step back, hooks in above the knee, brings the foot on the ground, takes a step forward, and then throws. From the other side, huge gap, and then the gap gets smaller as he takes the step, and the throw goes through. And the final example, Ono in white. This time he takes his support leg really far back. So far, he put his support leg in front of this leg, so somewhere in front of the right leg of his opponent. This time you can see the leg moving back here, more in front of the left leg, which is very far away. So, classic O-Soto, I would expect the foot to be somewhere on this line. Examples so far, this foot would have been somewhere here. This time, it's here. Very far away. Again, he keeps distance. And this foot starts hooking in behind the knee. Starts off above the knee. Can't really see Ono's leg. It's going to be better in a different angle in a second, but you can see that the knee of his opponent is about here, so it has to be above that. He's leaning away, again, in order to keep the space. Now he starts committing, brings in the hip a little bit more, comes closer. You can see his leg starts to come down a little bit, but in this variation he doesn't put it on the ground. Instead, he keeps it in the air, keeps on the pressure with this leg, and his support leg starts hopping forward until it's in the right position for the throw to come through. And in this variation, Ono tends to keep his hip a little bit back. He doesn't push it forward as much as he does when he puts this leg down. So now he starts hopping. The shoulders are still quite far apart, but the hip is all the way in, or the hip has contact at least. He starts hopping, and essentially he hops until this foot is again in the same position it would be with a classic O-Soto-Gari, and then he pulls through the throw. So he hops, and now he's getting into the position you would expect from a classic O-Soto-Gari. You can see there's quite a lot of distance up here. And now he's in. Now he's in all the way, and now it works. So the same throw from a different perspective, from the other side. You can see he starts off again. It goes far back. He's very far away from this foot. Classic O-Soto would be somewhere here. Example so far would be somewhere here. And now he's going here. The leg reaps over the knee. You can see he's leaning away from his opponent, trying to keep distance. Now with the first jump, he brings in the hip. He stays away with the shoulder, but he pushes, has very, very strong push up here against the lapel. And now with each little jump, he goes in closer and closer until he's in the position for a classic O-Soto-Gari and just pulls through the throw. Again, from behind, a little bit closer. He hooks in, starts to jump forward, and he jumps forward until he's in the right position, and then he pulls through the leg. And you can see he keeps his hip back a little bit this time. And the last view is going to be a close-up of the legs, essentially. So you see how far away he is with this leg from the classic position. The classic position is not even on camera here. This leg hooks over the knee and into the back of the knee. And then he just starts jumping, jumping, jumping. And one more jump and he's in position. And there he is. And here you can really see the hip trailing behind his opponent's hip. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Have fun.